prices, raising the middle class wages, protecting Medicare and Social Security. It's all at stake. That's why I'm here to support my husband, Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly focuses on facts, not politics. Mark is loyal and caring. Mark has already served our country so many ways. We needed him in the Senate. Thank you for being here today. It means so much to me and Mark. This is so important for Arizona, for our country. We cannot do it alone. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. Gabby Giffords, everybody. Thank you for inspiring me each and every day to do this. Thank you. Gabby's tough, but I know you guys are too. And that's why we're here today, to try to win an election again in November. Thank you for being here. When we reached out to folks to come to our office opening, we were planning on doing this inside. But then we wound up getting over 400 RSVPs. And our office, it's just not that big. But we'll have others and other openings around the state. But thank you for being here for this very important mission. And I look at this as a mission. In my prior life, in the United States Navy, as a combat pilot, flying off of an aircraft carrier, as a test pilot at the Naval Test Center at Patuxent River, Maryland, or my years as an astronaut in Houston at the Johnson Space Center, I was always focused on the mission. You know, what is the goal? Having a goal and a plan, and coming up with a way to be successful in whatever that goal is. And in this case, obviously, the goal is for all of us to be successful here in November. We did that in 2020. I want to thank you all for being part of that mission. You know, sometimes I think to myself, you know, that Gabby was occurs to me that Gabby was the politician in our family, right? I was a guy in the Navy for 25 years, and, you know, until I met Gabby, this was all kind of new to me. And I often think to myself, if something would have happened to me, if I was the person who would have become injured, would Gabby have become an astronaut? Well, she says yes. I don't know, how many people think she would have become an astronaut? Gabby could do anything. But, hey, I've been in this job now for, well over a year. And we've got about 5 months to go to the election. It has been an incredible experience. I showed up in the United States Senate at a very, I would say, interesting time in the history of our country. Pandemic, insurrection in Washington about a month after I got there. Some big legislation that we got passed, that we needed to pass. The American Rescue Plan. We have 500,000 small businesses in the state of Arizona, maybe 550. About half of all Arizonans work at a small business. And that legislation kept those small businesses open and kept people at work. That was a big accomplishment. Shortly after that, we had to focus on something that Congress and presidents and different administrations have been trying to do for decades, and that is passing a significant infrastructure bill. And we did that. And, you know, my office and, you know, the amount of time and effort we put into that legislation, it was significant. But this is going to really pay off. And one of my big focuses in this legislation was to try to solve a problem. Now, I'm an engineer and, you know, flying the space shuttle, my job is often focused on solving problems. And we've got a pretty significant problem here in the state of Arizona, and that's water. We've got Lake Powell, Lake Mead at historic low levels. We've got a drought that's been going on for 20 years. This is the worst drought that this part of our continent has experienced in 1,200 years. You know how we know that? Science.
Science.
Let's do a shout out for science. So it's a significant problem. And if we're going to grow as a state, if we're going to grow our economy, we need to grow our population here. And to do that, one thing we really need is we need water. Now here's the good news. I got $8 billion added to that infrastructure bill for Western water infrastructure. So we're going to build more water storage, water resiliency. One thing, it might not be really obvious, but settling tribal water claims helps us conserve water. And eventually we're going to be building some desalinization. That is in our future. But there is so much more we got to do. I mean, the cost from gasoline to anything that has a semiconductor chip in it to the price of prescription drugs are just too high. I talk to seniors across across the state, even across the country, as I meet seniors who are having to make really difficult choices between filling a prescription and buying groceries or putting gas in the car. And those other two things are really expensive as well right now. So we're working on this, and we've got a plan. I negotiated a plan previously. We're going to try to implement this to bring down the price of prescription drugs for seniors. To cap out-of-pocket expenses, especially on things like insulin. There's legislation that we are working on to cap the out-of-pocket costs for insulin at $35 a month. I mentioned semiconductors. I mean, if you bought something with a chip in it, it's been more expensive. There's a shortage, whether it's a car, whether it's your cell phone, whether it's a vacuum cleaner. I mean, all these things has semiconductor chips in them. Now, Arizona has been a really big hub for semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. The problem is, as a country, we've gone from controlling and producing about 40% of the semiconductor capacity in the world to 12%. And we really have to turn this around. So we're about to, I'm part of the group of people that are trying to resolve some differences between the House and the Senate bill. But when we get this across the finish line, we're going to have new semiconductor manufacturing facilities here in the state of Arizona, thousands of great paying jobs. And it's going to solve this issue that really is a national security issue for us. We get a lot of our semiconductors from Taiwan, and we get them from South Korea. We need to have that capacity here in the United States, and we are bringing that back. And this is going to happen probably in the next couple months. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about continuing to work across the aisle to get things done for the state of Arizona. That's been my focus since day one. But another focus of mine is also to bring some reforms to the United States Senate.
Good.
And what I mean by that is things that are sort of like ethical reforms. So from day one of my campaign, day one, I did not take a dime or a dollar, not even a dime, of corporate PAC money. The influence that corporate money has in our political system does not help the United States Congress solve hard problems. There's just too much influence with too much money from too many companies in our political system. I don't take corporate PAC money. The other thing I don't do is and this is true for Gabby too, I mean, for the both of us, we put all our finances in a place where we don't know what's going on with them. They're managed by somebody else. And I've got legislation to require that. So members of Congress are not trading on the information they get as a member of Congress. You know, buying and selling stocks is something that members of Congress do, not me. But they do this. And the amount of information we have, it's just not fair and it's not right. So I've got legislation to fix this. I'm also one of the rare people in the United States Senate that publish my Senate schedule. So, and the reason I do that is I think it's incredibly important for not only the 426 people here today, that's what I was told, RSVP, 426 people, but the entire state if they want to go online and see what I'm doing and see who I'm meeting with, that information is readily available to everybody in the state of Arizona. There are 535 members of Congress, 535, 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate. There is one person who publishes their schedule, doesn't take corporate PAC money, and doesn't trade in stocks and has their finances with somebody else, and that one person is me. We need that to be 535 people though. And when we do that, this country's going to run a lot better. So, in order to continue to do all these things, we have to win an election in November. Another one. The last one, you remember this? It wasn't easy. We had to work really hard. We made millions, well, I don't know the exact number, but over 1 million phone calls. Maybe something like that. We knocked on, well, it was COVID, so we didn't knock on as many doors as we would have. But we're going to need, again, to knock on thousands, if not tens of thousands of doors, make hundreds of thousands of phone calls, and work really, really hard to be successful in November. It's not easy winning a Senate seat in any state. And right now in Arizona, this is going to be competitive. I know that. But I also, know from my prior experience in all my other jobs that if you put together the best team of people